nuclear energy. We have the climate to be the leader. We have the low tax atmosphere that would promote growth. The problem we have is our education system is quite frankly terrible, and we need to fix our education system before we can expect high-paying green energy jobs. And we also need to, on the national level, lax the regulations on nuclear energy to make it economical for nuclear energy companies to build plants. Nuclear energy isn't as scary as it's been made out to be. What we could do in our state, because we have such vast spaces of land that's owned by the federal government, get the federal government to give it out to nuclear energy companies to where it's away from population centers, and reopen Yucca Mountain, use as the deposit, and we could self-sustain our state while at the same time exporting it to California, Utah, Oregon, etc., creating a profit for the state. But we need to focus on education. Another problem we have is, like he was saying, we have such a bare bones tax infrastructure that we can't cut anymore. We can only consolidate so many services. We can only cut so much. Our biggest expenditure on the state level is education. I mean, how much more can we cut from education before it becomes detrimental? And another thing I think is very important is lowering the dropout age to 16. I know a lot of people are against that, but if you think about it, we need to get rid of the goo in the classroom, so when we do get cuts, it's not detrimental to the students that actually want to learn. And if you drop out at 16, by the time you're 20, you're going to realize, you have no future. They're going to come back and do, adult ed, get their GED, go to great GBC, get an associate's, and improve their situation.
Eric's point is so well taken. I'm a 38-year educator, and you're so right about if we do not have trained workforces and we don't do a better job from K-12 all the way up through higher education, without that, it's going to be very difficult to grow ourselves out, within our state out of this economy. So what else, folks? What can we do?
I have a question for Eric. He said,
yes.
He did give an example, so I applaud you. But you said fix our education. So can you give? Eric, you did give an example about lowering the dropout rate, but you used the word fix our education. So I wonder if you can expand on that.
I think we should take a look at European education systems, Finland, Sweden. What we need to implement is in middle school, we need to have testing. Education needs to be taken seriously at that level, elementary level, and in middle school you test. If you only make it so far, you go to vocational school, and then if you score higher, you go to high school, which is college prep. You divide the people. You divide the goo from the bright ones, and if you divide them, then you provide adequate training for the people that they don't want to learn, but you can give them vocational training, while you let the more intellectual students thrive, and they'll be able to compete for Ivy League schools. That they'll compete with Finland, Sweden, the top-ranked educational systems in the world. And another thing I think we need to focus on is creating an environment where we teach finance, personal finance at high school level. For both vocational and high school, because if you don't understand basic personal finances, you're gonna get into debt. You won't know what to do.
Thank you, Eric. And yes, you just described again the 60s and the 70s when we had technical colleges and we had standards, and somehow we got away from that.
Yeah, people don't realize right today the best asset we've got in this community. You're looking at him right here. People, me, and there's about 50,000 other people around here. We're keeping this town rolling. What's happening? They're trying to raise our taxes right now, right in this town. I won't say what it's all about because I'd be starting a big humbug here. So I'll just keep quiet on that. But Butch Borowski's got 5 acres out here, and they're trying to build a senior center out here. And if they build a good senior center where it's heard all over the country, this could be another Palm Springs right here in this town. I know everybody laughs at me, but it's true. They could do it. I better be quiet. Thank you.
Good point. That would bring jobs. You know, anytime we can build infrastructure, senior centers, whatever, it's jobs.
Okay, we got to get down to the grassroots. The grassroots are the families that teach children, communicate with them, that education is important. That's where it all begins. That's where it all goes wrong. So I think family life is the only way to get us out of this situation.
Okay? How do we crawl out of this hole? Over here, we've been pretty quiet. Ken, any ideas?
I've been listening to these sessions, and in each one, I think the same thing. The most important thing we can do is first educate ourselves, understand how we got in the situation that we're in now. You talk about it's taken years to get here, and where we're at, we're not gonna solve it overnight. So I think the first thing, we have to understand why we're in this situation that we're in now ourselves, and then educate other people. That's a place to start.
Education again. Let's go back over to Al and then back to Eric.
You know, I want to say this real clear, and the most important thing is that there's a major paradigm shift taking place in our country. I mean, it's in a paradigm shift. The real brief is it just turns everything upside down. There's no logic to that, and if we keep doing what we've been doing, we'll keep getting what we've got. We have to break the process to change. I want to go. This is going to turn it over to Eric. Is that, you know, again, I love what I do, economic development. And I go out there and I talk with companies. I've been a consultant, and I evaluate them even sometimes to determine whether or not I want to spend my time with them, because I only have so much time. But you know, the truth of the matter is that until we start changing things and improving our educational system, we're not going to be able to diversify our economy. We're not going to be able to just be depending on the gambling. Because let me ask you, if you're a fisherman and you want to catch bass, where would you go? To a bass pond. Or if you wanted to catch trout, where do you go? Where the trout is. So if a company is going to come to the community, they're going to come where the educated people are that know how to do the jobs that they want. And if those people are not educated and not here, the company's not coming. No matter how good you are, no matter what incentives you have, because the workforce is the cornerstone of what needs to do. Now, with that said, there is hope. Because here in Pahrump, we have one of the strongest brain banks in the Southwest United States. The retirees that have come here because it's attractive, that have educated, that are skilled, that have that. We have some uniqueness here. And what we need to do, in my opinion, is we need to call those guys out and those ladies out that has those skill sets and start expanding them to those young people. And yes, I agree. You were so spot on there, Ray, is that we got to go back to that family unit, you know what I mean, to encourage that so it could kind of go forward with that. So, and last I want to say is that, you know, Jim, you said, do I trust government? Absolutely not. But I don't know what other way to help to get the schools so they could be affordable. I think the whole system has to be turned upside down. I think the reward, the system, the accountability isn't working. So let's change it. We naturally fear change. It's our human instincts. Do what you fear the most, and you will fear it no more. And we need to look it in the face and say, we're going to change and we're going to go forward. Thank you.
I just want to make one fast comment here. That's right. I'll hand it to you here in a second. I just want to make one fast comment here. Education's fine. I got nothing against education. That's fine. I wish I'd have had some. But whatever happened with on-the-job training, that's the way I come up. And they don't have it anymore.
Excellent point. You're right
Another thing I just happened to dawn on me, in regards to fixing education, we need to limit the power of the unions, because during the last school budget crisis last year, I watched good teachers, young teachers that didn't have the years under their belt. Yeah, seniority. They got the pink slip. They got riffed when some of the most ineffective teachers stayed because they had 20 years with the district. And I thought it was quite ridiculous how the unions play so much of a role in our education system, yet they're one of the biggest detriments to it.
Excellent point. How about over here, Jim? Lana?
Okay. I just want to reflect on change. It recurs to me that we lived in the best of times. The 50s were the best of times. And the change should be backwards. Let's go back, not something new and different. We already know what was happening in the best of times. Return to that. And the vocational, yes, yes. And you even mentioned Finland and whatnot. He knows. And that would be very good. We can't all be musicians. We can't all be experts in every field. And we can't all go to college.
Well said. How about over here? Jim? Comment? I disagree with Katrina. Sonny?
No.
Finally, first time tonight.
Yes, we may not be able to do anything about the government, but I believe all of us as individuals can do something. And what I remember is that in the hard times, the neighbors, when my mom was a single mom, the neighbors will see after us and make sure that we were doing what we were supposed to do. And it was just last weekend, my sister had a speaking engagement. And one of the guys was there, and it was his mom came over and gave her a whooping because my mom was at work, and she always did her own thing. And so I believe that when we look at the children and see them going the wrong way, and we reach out if there's no supervision and impart whatever we can impart and talk with them, I believe that we can make a difference as individuals. If you see, children that don't know how to spend money or just don't know basic things, education, there's no more on-the-job training. But what I have done at one time at the office, I invited some young girls from another agency, and I just taught them some office skills, little basic skills. So we can be creative, come together, and every last one of us have something to offer or some type of resource, and we can come up with a plan.
I'm going to speak for Las Vegas for a second. Las Vegas has 1 million brand new schools, really beautiful schools. They got the best facilities. We have teachers that are well paid, and we have a lot of teachers out there that are well paid. And everybody uses the Texas School Board textbooks, right? So they're all the same. And these teachers that we have in Las Vegas come from every state in the union. Las Vegas is probably last in the nation for metropolitan areas for education. So I was waiting for one of you two gentlemen to say more money, and you didn't. So thank you very much for not saying more money. But I don't, so the one thing I can go back to is what Ray said. If this, and some of the things that Eric said about letting the guys drop out early if they needed to do that, and the vocational schools maybe is a deal, but we can't go back to the 50s. As much as I would like to, we can't go back to the 50s, and so I don't know what the answer is to encourage excellence from the students and their families, because everything else in Las Vegas is the same as anywhere else in the country. So I don't know what the problem is.
Good point. We're closing in here. Oh, Eric? About 5 more minutes.
One thing I wanted to say, I know a lot of you probably support the idea of, rolling back to the 50s, but I don't think we should go back. I think we should go forward. We should take the good things from the 50s